Uh, we're going to work on some lunges. We're going to work on some hips. I want to try to get to a nice pigeon pose toward the end. So if you normally take blocks or something in pigeon, or at least have a pillow, sometimes in pigeon, so one of our hips kind of lifts up a little bit too much. And so we don't strain it by going into too deep of a stretch. Maybe sometimes you want to put a cushion just under that hip, just to keep our hips supported. Um, Hopefully we'll get to that through the class. And if I remember to get there, if not, we'll do it next week. We'll start in seated, top of the mat. Bring yourself into a nice, comfortable seated posture, whether that's legs out front, whether that's legs bent, crossed, sitting cross-legged. If you want to try to protect your knees, another nice seat that we can always take is just kneeling, where we sit our hips back on our heels, just like child's, but we're sitting up nice and tall. Gives a real deep bend to the knees, and sometimes the direction that we're bending the knees here is better than bending them here. But wherever we are, we're going to take some time and just think about bringing ourselves weighted onto our mats. We take some time to focus beginning of the class, of course, just to make sure that we've got our centers over our midsection. We've got our head focused into our practice. We're trying to take all the other thoughts of the day and move them out. So from here, we'll think about all the contact points we have on the mat. We can keep pushing the legs down to the ground, pushing the hips down to the ground, finding the weight into the mat, finding the weight into the floor. When we push down like that, we're grounding ourselves into the mat. We're grounding ourselves so we can take growth out of the hips. And as we're pushing down, maybe that chest lifts up just a little bit. We want to try to keep that chest compressed in, keeping the ribs pulled together so that we're actually expanding the back as we lift ourselves up. Trying to find the length or the space between the vertebrae versus the curve of that back pushing the chest out. So as we lift our chest up, we're finding more room in between each of our portions of our spine or vertebrae. As we're lifting ourselves up, we may find ourselves pushing ourselves even further down onto the ground, finding that counter posture, the lifting and the pushing, creating some space in the midsection on our abdomen. And if we find some room there, maybe we can take that belly button, just draw it in just an inch, engaging that core, getting all the muscles that support our body engaging and helping us sit up nice and tall. If the shoulders are way up by the ears, we're going to take them and just try to pull the shoulder blades together as we drop those shoulders all the way to the ground, taking our hands flat to the earth, bending the elbows, making sure that we have plenty of room to let those shoulders drop. We'll then take both hands and bring them into our heart center, letting the elbows fall to the floor, keeping the shoulders away from the ears. We can take our chin, just gently drop it just an inch, giving some length into the back of the spine. Keeping our eyes closed, maybe our gaze soft. Pushing our fingertips together, pushing the heel of our hands together. Inhale, bring our hands up high to the sky. Inhale all the way up high. As we exhale, we'll bring our hands back to our heart center, dropping that chin, keeping our gaze maybe on our fingertips. As we inhale, bring our hands back up. Exhale, bring our hands back to heart center. In more time, up to the sky. This time, release the hands, separate, and bring fingertips up as tall as we can. Bring the shoulders to the ear. Keep the left hand raised. Drop the right hand to the floor, putting that right hand on the floor, and then lifting the left fingertips as high as we can on an inhale. On an exhale, just gently bending over to the right side, getting some stretch into that left side body. Keep the right side nice and expanded so we're lifting up as high as we can before we pull ourselves over. Trying not to compress or condense that right side. Inhale. As we exhale, release some energy. Next inhale, our right hand comes up to meet. Both hands come high to the sky. Fingertips touch. Exhale, bring our hands back to heart center. Let those shoulders relax. Inhale, back up high. Separate the hands, right fingers to the sky, left hand to the floor. Bring the fingertips up as high as we can. Let the shoulder come up to touch the earlobe if we can. And then on an exhale, bending over to the left, getting some stretch into that right side body. Inhale. As we exhale, release some energy from that left side. Make sure we have no compression into that left side body. We want all the stretch on the right side. Inhale one more time. As we exhale, release. Next inhale brings both hands up to the sky, fingertips touch. Exhale, bring our hands back, heart center. Inhale one more time up. Exhale, we're going to turn to the right this time, grabbing onto that right knee with the left hand, sitting up nice and tall, and then pulling that left shoulder across our bodies, trying to get the chest to point to the right side of the room. Inhale, sitting up a little taller, pushing that right hand. Exhale, pulling that left shoulder across. Just starting our movement here, so we're getting our muscles warmed up and ready for some exercise. Inhale. Exhale, release. Next, inhale, hands come up high to the sky. Exhale, bring our hands down to heart center. Inhale one more time up. Exhale, turn to the left, grabbing onto that left knee with the right hand. Same thing, pushing that left hand to the floor, keeps the back nice and straight. Pulling that right hand, pulling that left knee, brings the shoulder around. Think about sitting up nice and tall, trying to get those shoulders to come north and south on our mats. Inhale. Exhale, release that energy. Inhale one more time, hands up high to the sky. Exhale, bring our hands back through heart center, then drop them all the way to the floor on our laps. Sitting up nice and tall, lifting the chest, pulling that belly in. We're going to slowly bend forward, coming into our seated forward fold, cross-legged. Maybe take our hands to the floor, keeping that chest nice and lifted. We want to make sure we keep the hips on the floor. Maybe we walk those hands out just a little bit further, keeping that chest lifted, keeping the back straight. Inhale. As we exhale, drop the head, drop the shoulders, take all the energy out. Inhale one more time, come back up. Hands to heart center. Take one good breath together. Inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. Dropping the hands to the floor. Spinning those legs around or rolling over the knees. We're going to come into our tabletop posture, getting those legs out from being bent. Bring our knees under our hips. Bring our hands under our shoulders. Taking the time now that we have so much room to make sure those fingertips are far apart. The pinky and the thumb are spread as far apart as we can, keeps the fingers nicely spaced. Weight comes to the top of the hands. So we're pushing down on the fingertips, on the balls of the hand, keeping the weight out of the thumb, keeping the weight out of the wrists. Inhale. As we exhale, let's bend that belly button all the way through, squeezing the back to a cat round. Inhale, drop the belly button, come to a cow. Exhale, squeezing through, bringing the back all the way to the ceiling. As we inhale, drop the belly button all the way to the floor. Keep the shoulders and hips high. Exhale, squeezing through, one more cat round. Inhale, cow. Next, exhale, we come to a nice flat back. We're going to take that right leg out behind us, drop the toes to the floor. Just bring that right heel further out behind us, stretching out the back of the right leg. That knee can be bent and nice and soft if we need that room in the back of our leg. If we can straighten out that leg just a little bit more to feel the stretch into the calf, maybe to the heel or the Achilles or all the way up to the hamstring. That's just a way that we can stretch out the back of the leg. Inhale, bring that right leg up parallel to the world. Stay here or lift that left hand to the front of the room, thinking the thumb to the sky, coming into our spinal balance. Nose points to the floor, belly button squeezes in. Inhale, stretch the fingertips and toes apart. Exhale, bring the hand and the knee back to the floor. That left leg comes back, toes hit the ground. That heel pushes back to stretch out the back of the left leg. Again, that knee can be bent if we need a little bit more comfort. We don't have to bring that heel all the way to the ground. We're just trying to make the back of the legs open up, especially after we've been sitting cross-legged for a while. It's a good way to stretch out the back of the legs before we start moving into some other postures. Bring that left leg parallel to the sky, lift it hip height. Toes pull forward, heel pushes back. That right hand in the front of the room can stretch out. Spinal balance, thumb to the sky. Chin is tucked, belly button's pulling in. Inhale, stretching the heel and the fingertips as far as we can. Exhale, bring our hand and our knee back down. We're going to take the toes together, bring the knees out wide, sink the hips down to the heels, taking some weight off of the wrists. We're going to bring those hands either way out in front, or we can wrap those hands around, grabbing onto our heels, maybe pulling the hands just a little bit to stretch out the wrists. Those hands come to the top of the mat again. Active arms, elbows come off the floor, fingertips are nice and spread, hips come off the heels. Turn the toes over, lift the hips, come into our first downward facing dog. Very easy, knees are bent, swinging back and forth, whatever movement you need, just to get the legs opened up. Find the energy and the strength in the hips, lifting them high to the sky, bending the knees, pushing the hips back toward the room, and then maybe straighten those legs out just a little bit more. Inhale high on the toes. Exhale, bend the knees, push hips back. One moment of peace and stillness before we inhale. As we exhale, walk our feet to the top of the mat, meeting our hands. Knees can be bent, torso can be resting upon our thighs. We're going to take our fingertips to the shins, just flatten that back, bring the head out as far away from the body as we can to the front of the room. Exhale, release, bending forward, touching down. If we'd like, bend those knees a little bit more before we roll all the way up to the sky. Bring our hands up high. Exhale, bring our hands down to our sides. Mountain posture. Feet are maybe hips distance, maybe a little bit closer. Hands are facing forward. Those shoulder blades are stretching back to meet each other on our spine. The shoulders are dropping down. There's energy in our fingertips and our hands. Maybe those knees are pulled up a little tighter. Maybe the tops of the inner thighs are squeezing together. Maybe that belly button's pulling in. Our mountain posture here is a restorative posture, but it is active. We can still take all the energy here that we need. Inhale, bring our hands up high to the sky. As we exhale, hands come out like a T. Let's come into our first forward fold, gently coming down. Those knees can still be bent, resting our torso on the knees. Maybe the hands come to the floor or the toes or the shins. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fall forward, bend those knees one more time before we roll all the way up. Reverse swan dive to the top of our mountain. Exhale, mountain posture. One more time. Inhale, hands up. Exhale, arms out like a T. Leave the chest, nice flat back. Come all the way to the floor, wherever your body stops. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fall to the floor, bend those knees, touch down if we can, then roll up again, tall mountain. Exhale, mountain posture. One more time, inhale up, high. Exhale, arms like a T, leading with the chest, down to the floor, swan dive to the floor. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale to the floor. Let's take those feet out about hips distance, walk heel toe our feet out, keep those knees bent. We can take our hands, wrapping them around our elbows, come into our ragdoll, letting the head hang heavy. Maybe bringing the weight to the balls of the feet, keeping those heels on the ground, but just lightly touching. Maybe straightening those legs if our legs are opened up far enough. Maybe swinging back and forth, either twisting left and right or pendulum left and right, just to get a little stretch again through the back of the legs. Inhale, drop the hands to the floor, bend the knees, rolling all the way up tall mountain, high to the sky. Exhale, mountain posture. From here, what we're going to do is start stretching out the back of the legs a little bit more. So we're going to take that right leg and cross it in front, right foot, and cross it in front of the left foot. So we're going to stay on the floor with both feet crossed. All 10 toes are facing forward. If we need to bend those knees, that's okay. We're going to come into our forward fold here with those legs twisted a little bit. So arms come up high for a tall mountain. Whoa, it comes for a tall mountain. And then exhale, same thing, forward fold coming down to the floor. If those knees are bent and you're only halfway down, supporting yourself with your hands to your thighs is great. If we can come all the way down to the floor with those knees bent, that's okay. And if you can straighten out the knees, that's fine too. This is the one you'll feel tomorrow. Inhale, exhale, bend those knees, release the energy, come all the way up tall mountain, arms high to the sky. Exhale, our arms down to our sides, untwist those feet, bring them back out, reset, arms high to the sky. Exhale, fall forward, hands touching down. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, release to the floor, bend those knees, roll all the way up, tall mountain, high to the sky. Exhale, arms to our sides. We're going to come into that twisted leg on the other side. So take that left foot and bring it into the other side of the right foot, crossing our feet, all 10 toes facing forward. Staying here is fine. If we need to forward fold, inhale up high. Exhale, we can walk those hands down the legs, keep the knees bent as far as we need to do, just to find that stretch into the back of the hamstring on that right leg. Hands can come to the floor, hands can come to a block, hands can gently rest on the thigh or the calf. If we have our fingers to the floor, either bent knees or straight, you can let that head drop. Inhale. Exhale, release some energy. Walk yourself all the way back up, arms high to the sky. Untwist those toes, bring the feet down parallel to the front of the world. Inhale up high. Exhale, fall forward. Let the hands touch the floor, the shins. Inhale, halfway up. Now we bring our hands to the floor, bending those knees. Let's bring our left and right foot back, coming into first a high plank and then dropping our knees to a kneeling plank. For our kneeling plank here, we're going to bring those elbow points facing the back of the room. Try to open up the shoulders as much as we can. Bring the shoulder blades together. Inhale. Exhale, bend the elbows, come all the way to the ground. Inhale, bring the chest up for cobra. Exhale, release to the floor, pushing through tabletop. Turning the toes, coming into our downward facing dog. Inhale, high on the toes. Exhale, bend the knees, push the hips back. Straighten the legs. Inhale, high on the toes. Exhale, bend the knees, walk to the top of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Flat back, heads extends far out. Exhale, fall to the floor. Bend those knees, roll all the way up tall mountain. Exhale, mountain posture. Finding our heat, finding that sweat. Inhale up high. Exhale, swan dive forward again. Fingertips touch. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, hands to the floor, stepping back. Coming into that high plank first, either staying here or dropping the knees as we lower ourselves all the way to the floor. Inhale, raise the chest for cobra. Exhale, release back to the floor. Push back, but this time let's bring our toes together, knees out wide. Come into our child's posture. Bring the hips back to the heels. Let the chest fall to the floor. Maybe bring the forehead all the way down to the floor. The hands can stay where they are. If you'd like to reach back, grabbing onto those heels, giving your shoulders just a little bit of a tug. Great way to get some traction in. Inhale. Exhale, release the hands, bring them to the top of the mat if they're not there already. Next, inhale, the elbows come off, fingertips spread. Exhale, release. Next, inhale, just shift forward to a kneeling plank, bring those knees together. Let the hips sink as far as we can to try to get the back nice and straight between the knees, hips, and shoulders. Inhale. Exhale, now bring ourselves to the floor. Inhale, cobra, lifting the chest. Exhale, pushing back, coming into our downward facing dog. Inhale, high up on the toes. Exhale, bend the knees, walk, step, maybe hop to the top of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale to the floor, bend those knees, roll all the way up, tall mountain, high to the sky. Exhale, mountain posture. Inhale up high. Exhale, bend forward. Touching down. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, this time we're going to take the hands to the floor, but only step the right leg back, coming into a low runner's lunge. Now, in the low runner's lunge, those hips may be way up high. That's okay. If we can bend the front knee to bring those hips down, make that line between the ankle, hips, and shoulders, that's okay. Drop that right knee to the floor if you haven't already. Untuck the toes, lifting the chest up, coming into our kneeling crescent lunge, arms to the sky. Inhale. Exhale, bring those hands down. Keeping our feet just where they are, we're going to straighten that left knee out, bring our hips over the right knee, come into just a little quick mini split. Just straightening out that left knee, maybe bringing the left toes off the mat if we'd like. Walking back to the front of the mat, bending that left knee, hands to the floor. Come off that right knee, bring the left leg back. High or kneeling plank flowing through, high to low, all the way to the floor. Chaturanga, wherever your practice takes you, for a cobra or up dog. Meeting back in our downward facing dog. Inhale high on the toes. Exhale, bend the knees, top of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale to the floor, bend the knees, roll up, tall mountain. Exhale, right back down to the floor, hands touching. Halfway lift. Hands plant, step that left leg back. Low runner's lunge on the other side. Keeping those hips high is okay. Trying to bring them down even lower, seeing if we can open up that front hip, if we can bend that front knee. Dropping that left knee if we haven't already. Untuck the toes, rising up to our crescent. Chest is lifted to the sky. Back is nice and long. We're reaching up and then back just a little bit. Inhale. Exhale, hands come down, straighten out that right knee. Come into that split. Pulling the right toes up if we'd like. Staying up high on the fingertips, or even up higher than that, holding on to the thigh is okay. We can always fold over that front knee. All depends on where you want to go. Inhale. Exhale, bend that front knee, drop the toes, hands to the mat, stepping back, flowing through, kneeling or high to the floor or halfway to chaturanga, rolling forward to cobra or maybe an upward facing dog, then moving back to our downward facing dog. Inhale high on the toes. Exhale, bend the knees, push the hips back. Inhale high on the toes. Exhale, bend the knees, walk, step, hop, crawl, top of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale to the floor, bend those knees, touching down, rolling up, tall mountain. Exhale, mountain posture. Woo. Take a quick sip, mop off, check your email. Got plenty more to do. While we're standing, we're going to take a little bit of our balance posture here. Even in our balance posture, we're actually going to try to take some hip openers, get ready for our pigeon. So before we're going to do our balance, let's start talking to our chairs just a little bit. So bring those feet together, let the toes touch, maybe bring the heels together. And we're just going to sink back into a chair, bend the knees, bend the hips, lift the chest, bring our arms high to the sky. We're going to bring the weight to the heels of our feet so we can lift those toes, all 10 toes off the mat, and wave them at the camera. Hands come back to heart center, inhale. As we exhale, fall forward, drop our hands to the floor, straighten the legs, forward fold, inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, hands to the floor, bend those knees, come back up to chair. Squeezing the knees together, squeezing the legs together gives us our stability, our support. Inhale. As we exhale, stand up nice and tall. Let's bring those feet out a little bit wider, not all the way to our hips, just so we have a little more balance. And we're going to come into our cross-legged chair in a balance posture here. Now, if that's something that's you want to take a wall for, hold on to something, or modify it so that we're only coming into maybe a tree posture, something that is more approachable for you, that's fine. So tree is very easy. For many of us, we can just take that heel, bring it onto the ankle, keeping ourselves suspended, bringing that leg up as high as we'd like. If we'd like to take it in a different way for our chair, what we can do is come back to our mountain posture. And we're going to take that right ankle and bring it behind the left knee as we bend that left knee, coming into chair with the leg gently resting. The right toes pull back, that protects the knee. We still have that drishti, that focus point. We can bring our hands to heart center. Inhale. Exhale, release the hands if we have them. Untuck, uncross the right leg, stand up nice and tall, arms come high to the sky. As we exhale, fall forward. This time, let's walk those feet out about hips distance. Give us a little more room as we take our big toes around our peace fingers. Coming into our forward fold here, our body shifts to the front so that we're pushing the fingertips down at the ground. If we're holding on to our elbows in our ragdoll instead, we still have that weight forward, pushing the toes down. If we have those knees bent, that's okay. We're still looking at pulling the top of the torso closer to the earth to stretch out the back. If you can hold on to those toes, straighten the arms, flatten the back. Exhale, bend the elbows, bring the torso as close to the floor as we can. Inhale, release the toes, bend those knees, roll all the way up, tall mountain. Exhale, mountain posture. Bring those feet back in. Bring them in so much that our toes are touching, knees are together. We're going to come back into those chairs. So inhale. As we exhale, bend the knees, drop the hips, raise the chest. Arms can frame out the ears. Coming into our chair. Inhale. Exhale, hands come back together at heart center. Inhale one more time. Exhale, fall forward. Hands fall to the floor. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, bend the knees. Roll up all the way, tall mountain. Exhale, separate those feet just a little bit more, setting up for our balance on the other side. For our balance, we want to make sure that that chin's right over the hip, which is right over the heel. So we have all of our body weight right over that right side. We can take that left foot again back as a kickstand in our tree posture, if that's something that you'd like to take. If you want to take it into that same cross-legged chair, we bring the weight to the right foot, bend the knees, cross that left ankle behind the right knee, sit back into our cross-legged chair. Arms can come out. Hands can always stay back at heart center or holding on to our hips. We're finding that moment of stillness, that moment of balance. If it's a second, if it's more or less, we still found it. Inhale. Exhale, uncross the legs, bend those knees, drip down. Let the body sink low, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, hands come to the floor. Step that right foot and left foot back. Kneeling or high plank, flowing through high to low. Rolling forward for cobra or up dog. Meeting in our downward facing dog. Inhale, high up on the toes. Exhale, bend the knees. Hop, skip, jump. Walk to the top of the mat. Halfway lift in. Exhale to the floor. Bend those knees, roll up, tall mountain, arms high. Exhale, arms to our sides. We're going to step that right foot back to come into our warrior series. We can do this simply by stepping it back. If we'd like to take some more balance, we can bring that right knee off the ground, bouncing on the left foot, and then gently walk that right foot to the back of the mat. Coming into our warrior one, arms up, framing out the ears. Shoulders are still down away from the earlobes. Maybe the shoulder blades are pulling back. Fingertips are spread wide, engaged just like when we have our hands to the floor. Gaze can come to the front of the room. Inhale. Exhale, hands come down, frame out the front foot. Step that left foot back, flow through, or just meet in downward facing dog. If we've built up enough heat, these flows are just flows. We can skip them. Inhale, high on the toes. Exhale, bend the knees, top of the mat. Halfway lift in. Exhale to the floor. Bend those knees, roll up, tall mountain, high to the sky. Exhale, mountain posture. On the other side, weight comes to that right foot. You can either step back or lift that left knee, coming into balance, and then slowly take that leg to the back of the mat, rising up into warrior one. That right knee is bent. The right knee is open enough that if you look down, you can actually see that big toe peeking out the left side of that knee. That left hip is pushing forward. Try to keep the hips square to the front of the room. Belly button is pulling forward like that flashlight shining right out in front. Inhale. Exhale, hands down, frame out the front. Stepping back, flowing through high to low. Meeting in our downward facing dog. When we get there, coming high up on the toes. Exhale, bring the knees to the floor, toes touch, knees spread out wide. Bring the hips back to the heels. Take the hands to the front of the mat. We're reaching around for our heels, stretching out those shoulders. Getting ready for our next warrior series. We're going to add on to that warrior one. So we're going to flow through this next series through to the very end and then come back down to our spot here. But this is a hill we're going to climb as we move through these next series of poses. So let's steel ourselves together. Let's get that energy level up. Let's get the focus, knowing Our goal here is get to the end of the series, and then we come right back here to our resting relaxation posture, our recovery pose. Hands out in front, fingertips spread nice and wide. Gonna lift those hips off the heels, turn the toes, downward facing dog. Inhale high up on the toes. Exhale, bend the knees, push the hips back, straighten the legs. Find those heels sinking closer to the ground. Inhale high up on the toes. Exhale, bend the knees, top of the mat, hop, skip, jump, roll, crawl, get there. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale to the floor, bend those knees, roll all the way up, tall mountain. Exhale, mountain posture. Okay. We're going to take that right leg and just simply step it back, coming into warrior one. Setting up, finding our posture here that we had before, keeping that belly button to the front of the world. Inhale. As we exhale, we're open out the warrior two. Warrior two, those hips are opened out to the right-hand side of the world, but that knee is still opened up so we can see the left big toe, fingertips come north and south. Turn that left palm over, bring it to the height of the sky. Reverse that warrior. Right hand can come down against the leg, come back behind the back, reaching for the hip crease. First we reach up, maybe we can reach back after that. Inhale. Staying right here, we're going to straighten that left leg. That left knee goes straight. We're in our reverse triangle. Arms come back out north and south. We're going to turn those hips to the edge of the mat. Kick the right hip back. Bring the left hand as far forward as we can, stretching as much. And then we get to the end of the stretch, drop the hand to the leg, raise the right hand to the sky, triangle posture. That right shoulder is pulling back. The right hip is pulling forward. The left hip is pushing forward. Maybe we take the top arm, bring it behind our back to help open up that shoulder. Bottom hand can come around the abdomen to support ourselves. So now we know we're keeping ourselves up with our core, not just with the arm at the leg. Inhale. Exhale, let's bring those hands back north and south. Inhale, bring the left hand to the sky. Exhale, brings both hands to the hips, bring both toes to the right side. Lift up, raise the chest, arch the back. As we exhale, fall forward, wide-legged forward fold. Hands come under the shoulders. You can let the head drop. You can bring the hands out toward the toes or the heels, or even behind, letting the head come heavy to the floor. Those hands come back under the shoulders, flatten the back. We're going to turn those toes out just a little bit as we start to bend that right knee, letting the hips come down closer to the floor. Keep that left knee as straight as we can. If we can bring the hips all the way down, bring the left toes off the earth, coming into skandasana. If not, we can keep ourselves elevated, holding onto the floor with our hands, just bending that right knee just a little bit. Just enough to get a stretch, just enough to build some heat, build some energy. Wherever we are, we're going to take our hands to the floor, straighten out both knees, bring our hands, walk them to the front of the mat. All 10 toes face forward, step back with the left foot, flow through, come back to our downward facing dog, with or without our flow. Inhale high on the toes. Exhale, bend the knees, push hips back, heels drop to the floor. Inhale one more time, up high on the toes. Rock forward, step, hop, jump, top of the mat. Halfway lift on the in. Exhale, we fall to the floor. Bend those knees, touch down, roll up. Tall mountain, arms high. Exhale, arms to our sides. One more inhale. Exhale, open the mouth, let all the air out. Get some energy. Inhale up. Open the mouth, exhale. One more in. Exhale, let all the air out. Next, inhale, that left leg walks to the back of the mat. Warrior one. Inhale. Exhale, open out, warrior two. Now to keep that right knee open, that left hip may come out a little bit. That's okay. We can turn that right hand over, bring it high to the sky, bring it up first to the ceiling, and then maybe drape it over that right ear. Trying to find the stretch into the right side body more so than the crunch into the left by using that height. Staying here, straighten out the right knee. Now we're in our reverse triangle. Arms come north and south, front and back. Hips come out parallel to the edge of the mat. Left hip kicks back, right hand pulls forward, end of the stretch. Drop that right arm to the floor, to the leg, left arm to the sky. Now, sometimes our hand creeps down to the floor and the lower part of the leg, and we actually tend to rest ourselves using our own bodies. What I want to do is let that hand come up just a little bit, which may let us open up that left shoulder. Maybe to open it up more, we drop the top arm behind the back. Wrap the bottom arm around the midsection. Inhale. Exhale, release those hands north and south again. Then bring that right arm to the sky, reversing that triangle. Hands come to the hips. All 10 toes face the left side. Inhale, raise the chest. Exhale, forward fold. Keep those legs pretty straight. If you need to bend the knees to support, that's okay. Hands can come to the floor, to a block or a pillow, just to give ourselves some support for the floor. We can bring those hands out to our feet. We can keep our hands behind us, between our legs, pointing, fingertips pointing away. If we'd like, we can still keep the hands touching the hips so that we're keeping the back supported, just using our back muscles and our core. Wherever we are there, we're going to take those toes, spread them out a little bit wider than the heels so our feet are on an angle so that we can bend that left knee, coming into our skandasana as much as we need to on this side. Bending that left knee may bring the hips all the way to the ground, may bring that right toe to the sky. Hands can still stay on the floor. If we have enough support and we have that left heel on the floor, maybe try to take the hands off the earth. Inhale. Exhale, bring our hands down, straighten out that left knee. Inhale, high up on the fingertips, flat the back. Exhale, fall forward, walk ourselves to the front of the mat. Bring that right foot back, either downward facing dog or flowing through to get there. And as promised from our downward facing dog, we can come high up on the toes. On an exhale, drop the knees. Toes come together, hips come back. Chest can fall slowly to the floor. Maybe those hands come out to the top of the mat. Maybe they wrap behind ourselves, grabbing for those heels. So we've got a lot of stretch. We've got a lot of heat. We use both of those to come into our pigeon posture next. As I was saying before, if you need to use a block or a pillow to keep that hip off the ground from overextending, that's completely fine. Got plenty places to go. And if you really want to take pigeon on your back, just pulling that ankle behind the knee and pulling ourselves to bring the calf or the shin closer to the chest on our backs, we're fine doing that. That's definitely a good option if you're trying to protect or you don't have the flexibility yet to be comfortable in a prone pigeon. For those of you who want to take pigeon on the front, those hands come back out to the top of the mat. Elbow points are going to lift off the mat. Rolling forward into that kneeling plank. We can come into a tabletop or a downward facing dog, depends on how you like to come into that pigeon posture. Either way, that right leg is going to reach high to the sky. We're going to bend that right knee and bring the right knee behind the right wrist, letting the shin come to the floor. We can walk that left foot back. Bring ourselves closer to the mat, letting the hips fall. Again, using that block if the hip is way up high in the sky. From here, we can stay up with our hands on the floor, lifting that chest, keeping the back nice and straight. Wherever we are, we're going to pull those right toes back toward the knee, and that's going to protect all the little pieces in that knee as we engage the muscles there. If we'd like to take a reclined pigeon here, we can inhale and then slowly lower the chest to the floor if we're not there already. Stacking our hands one on top of another to make a shelf for our forehead, or using a block or a pillow here. Once we take the stress off from our backs, from our necks, from supporting our heads, you may find a different level of relaxation here in your pigeon posture as your shoulders start to release. Thinking about where we find our muscles becoming tight. We find our hip starting to feel tension. Maybe taking our breath, and with every exhalation, trying to take some of the energy out of that joint, out of that muscle. As we let the muscles relax, they tend to stretch even more. If we find at any point that we find pinching, we want to gently come out of that and make sure that we're not overstretching ourselves. So if we feel a pull, if we feel stretch, we're okay, but try not to, the goal is definitely not to pinch. For those of you who've reclined your pigeon, we can come back up. What we're all going to do is just sit back on that right hip and bring the left leg all around to the front. Come back into our, or come into our staff posture with both legs coming out in front. Hands are going to be behind our hips, fingertips pointing forward. Inhale those hands up nice and high. And as a seated forward fold, just taking your hands down, maybe to our calves, maybe all the way down to our toes if we'd like to touch those. If we have a towel or a strap and we want to wrap that around our feet to give ourselves a little more pull, that's okay, but we're trying here for the recovery, the relaxation of our back, more so than a stretch. Inhale, hands on our shins, lift the chest. Exhale, let the head and shoulders round, come all the way, let all the energy out. Roll back up into a seated posture. We can cross those legs, rolling over, coming into our tabletop. Wherever we are, we're going to make ourselves either to a tabletop or to our downward facing dog, depending upon how we'd like to come into that pigeon pose. Left leg either way comes high to the sky. Bend that left knee, bring the left knee behind the left wrist. Let the shin come down to the floor. Walk that right leg back. Bring the hips closer to the floor. Staying up nice and tall. If you'd like to recline your pigeon, bending those elbows, maybe first just putting the forearms on the floor. If that's enough stretch for you to stay right there. If you'd like to bring your head closer to the floor, using your hands to stack fist on fist, hand on hand, just to give the head just a nice shelf to rest on. And while we're doing this, letting the shoulders and the neck relax. The heat we've built in ourselves and our muscles, that heat and energy are letting our muscles start to relax. So as we find ourselves sinking into these postures, it's not unusual to find ourselves coming into more stretch. I'll ask that you let that stretch happen versus pushing on it. As we push, sometimes we're taking our bodies and our muscles into areas they're not ready to get to. If we let our muscles just relax and gently rest into a posture, into a stretch, gives us a little bit more opportunity there to get a deeper stretch without pulling too much onto our muscles. From here, let's bring our hands back to the floor, rising up from our pigeon posture, sinking onto the left hip as we swing that right foot around, coming back into that staff pose with both legs stretched out in front, toes up into the air, fingertips pushing forward, hands to the floor, lifting up as tall as we can. As we inhale, those hands up nice and high. Exhale, bring our hands down, coming into that forward fold again. With every inhale, maybe lifting that chest, bringing the head further away from the hips. With every exhale, letting the chest sink closer to the hips, closer to the knees. Inhale, bring that head up higher. Exhale, let the body relax. Maybe let the head and shoulders roll forward. As we inhale, we're going to sit back up. Bring both feet in. Soles of the feet touching. Those knees come out nice and wide, setting up for our bound angle. Again, pillows under our knees here do a great job of making sure that we're not going to overstretch. If we do have a practice where we know we can bring our knees closer to the floor without hurting ourselves, that's fine. Either way, we're going to sit up nice and tall, just like we did in the beginning of the class, pulling that belly button in, stretching the spine. Inhale. As we exhale, we can stay right here. If those knees are wide and open and you'd like to lean forward just a little bit, similar to what we did in the beginning of the class, keeping the hips on the floor with our cross leg. Now we're doing it with our knees wide open. Hands can come to the feet, pulling the big toes away from each other, opening our feet up like a book. Maybe taking those elbows and pushing the shins or the thighs into the floor to give ourselves a little more opening. If we have more stretch, we'd like to take the chest closer to the feet. Maybe bringing the hand to the forearms to the floor. Inhale. Exhale, release the energy, walk those hands back in. Let's start sitting up. Let's bring those knees back into center, wrap our arms around, sitting up nice and tall, giving ourselves a nice little hug. If we're too far back on our mats, we're going to scooch ourselves forward just a little bit. What we're going to do is come down onto our back, setting up for bridge posture. So let's make sure we have our room to do this. Inhale, we can bring our hands away from the legs and lower ourselves with our core. We can always grab onto the knees or the thighs. And if we'd like to take the feet up, coming into a boat posture before we come down, we can always take boat all the way down through canoe. Once we land on the floor, we bring those knees into the chest, rocking back and forth, getting ready for our bridge pose. When we're done massaging out the hips, what we're going to do is take our feet to the floor, keeping the knees bent. Arms come out long to our sides, palms facing down. The feet are going to be as close to our hips as we can, both in width and in length away, maybe enough so we can graze the back of the heels with the fingertips, pushing the arms down to the earth, pushing the feet down. We're going to lift the hips to the sky. Coming into that bridge supported posture. Maybe taking the shoulders, rolling them underneath, if that's in your practice, grasping our hands behind our back, pushing them to the earth. Doing this so that we can lift the spine further away from the floor. If we can lift the hips higher. One more in. Exhale, release the hands, untuck the shoulders. Let's bring the hips down to the ground. Feet come to the wide edge of the mat. Knees come together for steeple knees. If we need more release, we can wave those legs back and forth, finding a little release into the low back. Coming back to center, bring those feet back in. Now we're going to have an option here, and this is great if you have a block or a pillow. We can absolutely come into another supported bridge. We have definitely different ways to do that. If we don't want to come to a restorative, we can actually take a block or a pillow, put it right under the hips. And from here, just let the back cascade over the top of the pillow, or let the legs come long and use that pillow as a bridge just to lift the hips up higher. If you'd like to come into a regular supported bridge, those knees are in the air, the feet are close to the hips, arms along at our sides. Wherever we are, we're going to inhale, lift those hips. We can either take those hands again, rolling the shoulders under. We can grab to the outside edges of the mat. We can lift the heels up, bring the hips up even higher. And if we're doing that, maybe pushing the hips closer to the nose so that the weight of the back comes all the way to the top of the shoulders. And maybe we get almost every piece of our back off the floor. Inhale. Exhale, release slowly. Let the vertebrae drop one at a time. Let the hips be the last to land. If you're in restorative and you'd like to stay there, that's fine. If you'd like to take a reclined bound angle from your bridge, bring the soles of the feet together, let the knees come out nice and wide. You can bring one hand to heart center, one hand to the belly button. Bring yourselves a little bit of breath control, finding the heart rate coming back in. From here, bring those knees in nice and tight. Bring the knees into the chest. Bring our arms around, and we can rock back and forth, side to side. We're going to eventually come into our seated posture again, so we can roll all the way over to one side, just drop our knees and sit back up, or if you'd like, you can roll front to back, bring yourselves all the way up to a seated posture. Coming into a cross-legged seated pose. From here, we're going to bring that right leg out in front, take the left foot and bring it to the inside of that right thigh. Coming into knee to nose, inhale, our arms up nice and tall. Exhale, bring our hands down, grabbing for that ankle, for that calf. Trying to keep the back nice and straight as we pull the nose closer to the toes. Maybe pulling the toes back toward the knee, finding that stretch to the back of the knee, top of the calf, bottom of the hamstring. Taking that right hand to the inside of the right foot, open out to the left side, twisting that left hand back to the sky, maybe raising that right foot. Slowly dropping that right foot to the floor, dropping the left hand to the floor. Let's bring the right arm to the sky. Bring the gaze up to follow the fingertips. From here, we can stay here. We can lift those hips, bring the fingertips to the sky first, and maybe all the way over the ear, stretching a nice long line of energy from the wrist through the shoulder and the heel, all the way down to the right toes. Inhale. Exhale, bring the hips down. Bring ourselves facing forward. Bring that left knee in. Hug it nice and tight. We're going to take that left foot and bring it over the right knee. We can stay here with that right leg straight, or if we'd like, we can take that right knee and bend it as we twist to the left-hand side. That left arm goes high to the sky, then falls back to the floor. Right arm comes high. We can either take the hand to the knee or bring the elbow to the inside or the outside of that left knee, spinning ourselves to the left, trying to draw that left shoulder away, trying to bring that right shoulder closer to the left knee as we keep the back nice and straight. Gaze can come out to the left. If our neck is healthy and we want to take the gaze all the way back to that left shoulder, we can. Inhale. Exhale, release some energy. Next inhale, we're going to come around to the front. Arms come high to the sky, still keeping that knee bent. We're going to twist to the right, just come into a quick little counter. Just stretching out the left side body. Inhale. Exhale, bring ourselves back to the front. Uncross that left knee or that left foot to the knee. Bring both knees in. Give ourselves a hug and sit up nice and long and straight. As we exhale, bring the left foot out to the front. Bring the right foot into the left thigh. Inhale, bring our hands up high. Exhale, walk down that left leg, coming to the knee or the calf. Sometimes we try to reach for our toes, but they're a little bit too far away. Great thing to try is actually pull those left toes closer to the nose as we try to bring the nose closer to the toes. You might find some more stretch behind the knee, behind that left leg when you do that. So just make sure you're engaging that knee, making sure everything's nice and tight. Maybe taking the hands down if you can to grab those toes now. Maybe they're closer. We can always take a towel or a strap and use it to grab the foot. But the object here is not to come all the way to the floor. The object here is to straighten that chest closer to the toes so that the middle of the chest comes into the front of the knee. And as we're falling forward, we're trying to get that knee to land right in the middle of our chest and our nose to fall right to our toes. Bring that left hand to the inside of the left foot. Open up that right arm to the right side. Let's get that twist in. We can raise that left foot if we'd like. Getting that twist. If we can't grab the left foot, grabbing behind the left thigh or left calf. Perfectly fine. We're still getting that same twist. Dropping the left foot to the floor, drop the right hand, bring the left fingertips high to the sky, stay here, or raise the hips. First hands come to the sky, maybe that hand drapes over the ear. Inhale. As we exhale, let the hips come back, let that right knee come to center, wrapping our hands around it. We can take that right foot, cross it over the left knee. Again, bending that left knee if that's a better way for you to sit into your twist. If you can keep both hips on the ground, that's fine. If not, keeping that left foot out straight is perfectly fine. Right arm comes to the sky, lands behind. Left arm comes up. Either grab onto that knee with the hand or wrap the elbow around as we spin ourselves to the right. Finding the hips both on the ground, finding the spine nice and long, finding that left shoulder spinning around toward that right knee. Inhale. Exhale, release. Hands back to the sky. Inhale. Exhale, just twist nice and easy to our left side. Give ourselves a little bit of a counter. Inhale. Exhale, release. Bring both knees, uncross the right foot. Bring both knees in, give ourselves a nice little hug. We're going to bring ourselves back to our backs, coming into some twists. So again, holding on to the knees, the thighs, or self-supported, bring ourselves to the earth. When we get there, we're going to bring that right knee into the chest. Take our left hand, wrap it around that right knee, and draw that right knee across the body, extending that right arm out to the side, keeping the shoulder down to the earth. Making sure that shoulder lands on the earth. That makes our twist happen. If not, that shoulder comes up, we're just twisting over to our side. Bring that knee back into center. Bring both knees into our chest. Wrap our arms around those legs. Give ourselves a little bit of a hug, maybe rocking back and forth, massaging out the hips, lower spine. Holding on to the left knee, let the right leg go nice and long. Grab that left knee with the right hand and draw it over to the right side of the room, letting the left arm come out, keeping the left shoulder on the ground, coming into that twist. We've done a lot of movement this morning. Our stretches here may be deeper because we've had a lot of hip opening from our prep up into our pigeon to our pigeon. Bring the knee back into center. Bring both knees in. Give ourselves a little bit of a hug. If we'd like to take one more posture for the end of our class, we can always take happy baby, grabbing the outside edges of our feet or behind our knees. Maybe rocking back and forth. When we're done, bring ourselves down to the earth, getting ourselves ready for our next posture, final resting pose, our savasana. If you need to close the curtains, dim the lights, grab some more, blankets or sweatpants or whatever you need to bring yourself into more comfort. I'm going to take the next few moments and relax into our savasana. On your next exhale, push a little bit more air out, letting room for more air to come into its place. Finding that breath increase. Finding that energy come into the fingers, to the toes. Finding more movement. Bringing the wrists and ankles and knees and toes maybe closer together as we bring ourselves into a ball, rolling back and forth, waking ourselves up from our savasana. It's coming over to our side just for a moment between the end of our class and the rest of our day. Taking a breath here. Pushing our hands down to the floor as we bring ourselves back up to a seated posture. Keeping our gaze soft, keeping our eyes closed. Bring our hands back to heart center. From here, inhale, bringing our hands to the sky. Exhale, bring our hands back to heart center. Drop our chin, showing respect to ourselves and others that came out this morning together on Zoom, share their practice, share their yoga. Thank you very much for making this part of your Sunday morning. Have a great day. We'll end our class bowing forward, sealing our class with namaste. Namaste.